All right, Bookshelf Tour Part 10. The Manga Shelf. I really only have manga by Osamu Tezuka. Um, Mysterious Underground Men, Metropolis, Astro Boy, Volumes 1, 2, 5, 6, 7, 10, 11, 12, 13, 17, 18, 19, 20, and 21. Princess Knight. That is such a fun series. It's about a girl who has a boy's heart. Really fun. Dororo in 3 volumes. It eventually came out as only 1 volume, but I'm happy I have it in 3. Triton of the Sea, volumes 1 and 2. Also early Tezuka. Kind of a Namor-ish war on sea wars on land, fighting lots of sea gods. Very fun. Apollo's Song from the 70s collection. Book of Human Insects, sorry. That's the first one, if I really have to purge, that I will get rid of. There are a lot of things that I like about just the design of that book, which I will one day bring down and show off. Ayako, a really dark 70s story. The one next to it is very dark too. It's about a priest's relationship with a sociopath murderer. Message to Adolf. I had wanted to read this series since before I knew who Tezuka was, just to have a Japanese take on Hitler. And boy, is this a fascinating comic. It's about 3 guys named Adolf. One is a Japanese national growing up in, or one is a German national growing up in Japan. One is, the actual Adolf Hitler, and I can't remember who the third one is off the top of my head, but man, is this an interesting comic. Can't recommend it enough. Or Phoenix, for that matter. First volume of Phoenix is scuffed like that because I got it from like Netflix for books years and years ago, and I ended up keeping it. I think I ended up keeping everything I ordered from that except for Shazam and the Monster Society of Evil. The rest of the Phoenix volumes I just picked up Catch as Catch Can. I have the whole series. It's 12 volumes, but I don't have the 12th here. I don't know that Usagi Yojimbo counts as manga. I have 2 volumes of that. Volume 7 and Volume 27. One I found literally in the trash at work, and the other one I got at a library book sale. The first 2 volumes of Barefoot Gen, which is technically manga. It is a fictionalized story of the author who was a Hiroshima survivor. Absolutely great book. 2 Franz Mazzaril books. He's an amazing woodcut artist. He Done Her Wrong by Milt Gross. Obviously, we've moved out of the manga section. A volume of the Comics Journal that has a really cool story in it from the 30s called Eve, which I may show you in detail possibly later this evening. Legal Action Comics, because it has Tony Millionaire art in it, and really for no other reason. Buddy Does Seattle. Man, this... I can't tell you how much I love Peter Bagge. I have read both this and the one next to it, Buddy Does Jersey, many times over. I tried to buy hate comics when I was a teenager from my local comic store, Corner Comics, and it really pissed my folks off, although I was still able to cut up some images from the comic and put it on my bedroom wall. The Adventures of Sock Monkey. Now, I have this volume and the hardcover volume, mostly because this one has some Maki's comics in it that are not in the hardcover. Buddy Buys a Dump. Stories from Hate. The Road to Oz. Now, this is the only Oz book from the Scotty Young series I have as a pocket-sized book, and that's just because that was the only way I could find Road to Oz at the time. Little Adventures in Oz is another Eric Schanauer written and drawn one. He wrote the one that Scotty Young drew as well, but both fun stuff. Exerbia, which my dad handed me a while ago and I have yet to read. Lost at Sea by Brian Lee O'Malley. Still haven't read it. A great collection of Scrooge and Donald comics there that has the story where the mummy kidnaps one of the nephews. I can't remember if it's Huey, Dewey, or Louie, and they have to save him, and there's a magic ring involved in it. I'm waiting for that to come out in Fantagraphics because the art reproduction of this is not great, but it was a favorite story of mine as a kid. I had a single issue of it and lost it. Avengers Knights of Wundagore. It's the whole John Byrne run of Avengers in black and white in a little pocket-sized book. These were called lunchbox or backpack comics. Actually, I'm going to pull this one off the shelf and look at it, what they called it. Spectacular Issues, One Great Adventure, Avengers, Earth's Mightiest Heroes. That's going to drive me nuts because it had a specific name for what. Yeah, Backpack Marvels. It's a very clever idea. It's the only one of those I have. Sorry, my hand was in front of the camera for a second. Best of DC, Batman #9. This was recommended by Scott Gardner of the Two True Freaks Network. It's got the Batman murderer story in it. Untold Legend of the Batman. I did used to have all of the single issues of this. I got rid of them simply because there is a story in there about Batman going to school to become a police officer, and they ask the question, like, if two teens steal a car and one of them decides he wants to get out and then there's a car crash, are both teens guilty of causing the crash? And Batman's like, no, because the one kid wanted to leave. And they're like, no, Bruce Wayne, that may not be justice, but it's the law. And so he leaves, and I was like, what a stupid conceit. But now I like that series again, so I was happy I was able to find the Pocket Books version of it. Speaking of Pocket Books, I have a Doctor Strange collection that I picked up at Spine and Crown. Again, the art reproduction is not great, but it's super fun. I'll hold on to it until I find the second Doctor Strange Marvel Masterworks. Introducing Kafka by David Zane and Robert Crumb. I had this when I was a kid. I don't know why. I remember it being like crammed underneath my bed in my bedroom. But, so that book was wrecked. I was worried that I would not be able to get it again for cheap, but my dad found me a copy of it. Sadly, it's one of the few R. Crumb things I've got. I really like R. Crumb, but my collecting of him has not been particularly intense. Mouse Volumes 1 and 2. We had these in the house when I was a kid. I think my dad still has both of his copies. My friend Courtney gave me Volume 1 for my birthday a couple years ago, and I bought Volume 2, I'm pretty sure, at Spine and Crown. And that is it for this section of the bookshelf.